Good day to all boxing fans around the world. I'm talking from the Philippines, and I'd just like to, you know, share my thoughts about the recent news, boxing news, involving Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And they said that they're gonna have this fight in July, live on Netflix. Okay, so Mike Tyson, the legendary former heavyweight champion of the world, one of the greatest heavyweight boxers in history and one of the most famous boxers ever. And he's gonna fight a guy, you know, who found fame in the internet as a YouTuber. And I'm talking about Jake Paul. And Jake Paul, even with all his thousands of fans, he has acquired a lot of haters because they say that Jake Paul is not a real boxer. He's just a fraud or a poser. And he only fights retired old MMA fighters or old retired MMA fighters. And he doesn't want to fight someone his age. Also doesn't want to fight, real boxers his size, his age. So that's the reason why he's not gaining the respect that he wants, okay, from fans of the sport. So it's really interesting, and at the same time, you know, shocking to some fans, because there's a 30-year age gap, okay, between Tyson and Jake Paul. We all know Tyson is already pushing 60. He's turning 58 this year. And there are a lot of people who are divided about their opinions regarding, is this fight, do we really need to see this fight between a 57-year-old or 58-year-old former boxer, former uh, legendary heavyweight boxer, against someone who is 30 years younger, who is quick, strong? I'll give that to Jake. And he also has, I would say, some. I have to admit, he has some basic talent, and it's really he already proved himself that he's capable of, with proper training and focus, he can really box. Okay, although not on the same professional level as, uh, some of the guys he's, calling out, like Canelo Alvarez. Of course, that's someone who can only dream of beating inside the boxing ring. Now, going back, Mike Tyson. For fans of Mike Tyson and for boxing fans in general, this is still Mike Tyson. And the good thing about Tyson is he's still in shape. Okay, and not only is he in good physical shape, he already showed us over the past few years, on his videos, that he still has that power in his punches, power and strength and speed, with his footwork. Okay, he still moves fast for a 57-year-old man, and this is still Mike Tyson, regardless of age. So to fight someone like Jake Paul, people are actually scared for Jake Paul, not the other way around. But of course, there are also a lot of people who are concerned, uh, about Mike Tyson. Because if you're 58 years old, uh, unless you really taken care of yourself as you've gotten older, okay, unless you're still serious in training every day, you spar, you work out, you eat right. um, when you're that, at that age, you're no longer as, uh, you know the, the first thing that would, be compromised is your endurance, your stamina, and your cardiorespiratory endurance. And I'm saying that Tyson doesn't have a good cardio at his age. What I'm saying is, if he's gonna fight someone who's 30 years younger, then uh, we would definitely put Mike Tyson at a great disadvantage. Maybe he can only last for 3 rounds cardio wise, so that means he should knock out Jake Paul within 3 rounds. Otherwise, he would have a hard time. Most probably, Jake would knock him out. So that's the thing. When you're that old, you can say goodbye to your cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina. So that's what Jake Paul has, um, given that he's young. And so some people are concerned uh, that Jake Paul might, get killed inside the ring because he's fighting this pit bull boxer in Mike Tyson. Some are concerned for Mike Tyson because he's old, and even though he's still strong and fast, we would people would question his stamina. Okay, and I don't think any 58-year-old or 57-year-old athlete, even athletes, uh, would have legs that would be as strong as someone in his 20s. So Tyson, um, would have those disadvantages fighting Jake Paul. What he has, as an advantage is his experience, of course, and being a real pro boxer. He has all the, you know skills and expertise. How to throw the correct punches or combinations, the footwork. Um, and one more thing is the defense. Okay, so that's something that Mike Tyson, um, being a boxer since he was a young kid, he studied boxing all his life. So it's not just offense, but he also has defense that he can show. Without that defense at his age, he's not gonna last against Jake Paul. So he needs to also focus on his defense. So Tyson has that advantage: the experience, the power and strength. Okay, and the skills, basics or fundamental skills, because he's a real boxer. And Jake Paul's only advantage, as far as I'm concerned, is his youth. Okay, not that he's a lousy boxer, but he doesn't have the skills of a pure boxer. Okay, someone who's, dedicated his whole life to boxing. Now, the question is, do we really need to see this fight? Because Jake Paul has this image in boxing that is kind of destroying the sport of boxing, because um, you know he's earning a lot of money from a sport that he doesn't really, um, gave 100% dedication to. Okay, even if he's a serious boxer now, there are thousands of other boxers, amateur boxers who are more deserving of, getting exposure, and they have better skills than Jake Paul, and still, uh, it's a popularity game. So if you're more famous, if there are more people who know you, who follow you in social media, if you're more marketable, profitable, if you know how to market yourself as an athlete, then that's where the money goes. And so, that's why a lot of people hate Jake Paul for that reason, among others. Okay. So that's basically it. No, he just doesn't deserve it at this point in his career. And it's like he needs to start from the bottom. And he's making it like a pure. Jake Paul is treating boxing as a sport from a pure business standpoint. Okay, so that's the reason why it comes across as a fake or a poser. But anyway, Jake Paul is a decent boxer who has a potential to become a future champion, if you ask me. And do we need to see this fight against Mike Tyson? Yeah, I'm not a boxing expert. I'm not a boxer, but I grew up as a boxing fan since I was 12 years old. I'm almost 50. So I'm excited, okay, from a pure fan perspective. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm not worried about Mike Tyson, but I'm confident that this is still Mike Tyson as far as his, attitude towards the sport is concerned. He's still passionate about it. He still wants to fight. He still, I think, has a lot of gas left in his tank. So if he wants to, then it's his decision. Okay? And we cannot deny that money is a major factor in his decision. Although he denies it, in my opinion, it's a major factor. But of course, the other major factor is Tyson wants to prove that he still has it. That age is just a number. That he can destroy Jake Paul in 2 rounds. Okay, and Jake Paul, uh, he's got nothing to lose because if he lose to Mike Tyson, he lost to a legend. Okay, and this is Mike Tyson, one of the greatest heavyweight boxers in history, and one of the most feared boxers in any weight class. Okay, so Mike Tyson is one of the true legends of the sport. So if Jake Paul lost or lose to Mike Tyson, then there's no shame in that. And if he wins, if he beats Mike Tyson, then of course, two things would happen. He'll gain more fans, or he'll gain more haters. It's a win-win situation for Jake Paul because just fighting Mike Tyson, just being able to make that fight happen would raise his market value, so to speak. So he would people would take him more seriously because he's Mike Tyson, even if it's an old and washed up Mike Tyson. It's still Mike Tyson. So that's really what Jake wants to do. He wants to fight a legend in the sport, okay, and not retired MMA fighters, old and retired MMA fighters. He wants to fight a legend in the sport, even if that legend is old and slow and washed up. And Mike Tyson have lost his last few fights. He has everything to gain. Even if people say, "Hey, when Jake Paul wins, hey, you beaten a 58-year-old. A boxer is almost 60. But then again, it's Mike Tyson, so you know that's like a an equalizer. Mike Tyson's reputation as being one of the most or one of the greatest boxers in history. So yes, we need to see this sport. We need to see this fight, and because it's now a trend in combat sports to have a boxer fights an MMA fighter, and it started after the Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor fight. So the crossover fights are now becoming common in combat sports. So this is not unusual, although it's the first time in boxing to have two fighters have a 30-year age gap. And there's really a huge gap in this experience. And Mike Tyson is a legit pro boxer with a lot of fights under his belt. Jake Paul only has 9 fights. He's not a real boxer, so this is still interesting from that standpoint. Okay, because Jake is young, Mike Tyson is old, and Jake is has gained a lot of followers. And is such a controversial guy, popular guy among his generation. So this is just Gen Z versus Gen X fight. So it's really interesting. I know there are a lot of thousands of people who would not consider this a real fight or someone or some a fight that they would consider even watching. But you know we all have different opinions and different perspectives. But as a real boxing fan, a fan of MMA and combat sports, I would like to see this fight, and I'd like to see Mike Tyson beat Jake Paul or knock him out in 3 rounds, because that's the only chance he gets to beat Jake Paul, in my opinion. If he cannot beat Jake Paul in 3 rounds, and if Tyson gasses out after 3 rounds, then most likely Jake Paul would knock him out. Okay, so I'd like to hear to see comments regarding this fight. What are your thoughts and opinions? And I would like to continue this. This is one of the. I'm planning to make this a YouTube series, sharing my thoughts about upcoming fights, whether it's in boxing or MMA or UFC. And just talking as a fan here from the Philippines. And again, good day to all of you. Have a nice day.